Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Bloom, Group Publisher of Roofing Contractor, and welcome to our Best of Success podcast show. It is such an honor to have with me today Billy Downs, who is the president of Ford's Garage. Billy, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, Jill, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And yeah, can't wait to share a little bit about what's going on in my world with your world.
There are some good synergies here when it comes to Billy Downs and construction. But what I wanted before we get started, I just want to say, Billy, I've known you for a long time. Full disclosure, Billy is also my brother-in-law. But more importantly, Billy is one of the most driven and inspiring leaders I've ever known. And Billy is going to talk a little bit about this, but I want to just give a little introduction. Billy is the founder of BD's Mongolian Barbecue, which grew into a successful multi-unit franchise. And also, Billy has competed in 11 Ironmans, right? Is that 11, Billy? Is that the right number?
Yeah, pretty close.
It's a lot. Okay, 11 Ironmans. You even qualified for Kona. I mean, that was huge. And now you're helping scale Ford's Garage, which is one of the fastest growing restaurant concepts in the country. But Billy, I mean, I'm so excited to talk about you, but tell everybody a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you, Jill. I appreciate that nice intro. Yep. So I've always been in the restaurant business. Went to school at Michigan State actually to study hospitality business.
Go
and,
green.
Go white. And after, although I am wearing my Ford blue today, Jill, sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right. That's good.
But after graduating, I took a job overseas in London, England, where I worked for a startup over there called the Mongolian Barbecue UK. And we had a great run there for a couple of years, ended up partnering up with that group and opened up BD's Mongolian Barbecue and Grill in the United States. Specifically, Royal Oak, Michigan was our first one. And as you mentioned, I was able to grow that business to about 37 restaurants, well, specifically 37 restaurants in the United States. We were in 12 states, and we had a nonprofit restaurant in Mongolia, which was kind of a crazy adventure, but a lot of fun. And then after selling that company, we did sell it in 2008. I did some consulting, which was great. Learned a lot about a lot of different businesses and some other nonprofit stuff. Did a lot of nonprofit work with World Vision, which is the largest non-government provider of clean water in the world, and kind of connected the athletic side of what I was doing with triathlon and marathons with athletic fundraising for clean water projects. Super impactful, super fun. And also during my consulting time, a lot of regional brands that were kind of restaurants I worked with. But one fun one I did was actually not in the restaurant business. It was Goldfish Swim Schools, which was on their advisory board for about 4 or 5 years and have helped them to scale from 10 to about 100 at that time. And they're now today approaching their 200th unit, which is great. And then during that consulting time, ran into Ford Motor Company on a couple different projects. I'm based in Detroit area, and obviously world headquarters is here. They had some projects that they were looking at in the restaurant space, and eventually showed me Ford's Garage, and came on to give them just some feedback on the brand and what I saw the opportunities were and what the strengths were, and just loved the brand. And next thing you know it, I'm the first franchisee for the brand. That was in 2017. We opened up Ford's Garage in Dearborn, Michigan, just down the street from world headquarters. And then have slowly kind of developed the Detroit market, opening our third restaurant this summer, which is exciting. But also had the opportunity to take over as president of the brand this past year. So now we have 31 restaurants in 8 states, and growing mostly come from the Mississippi East in key large cities, mostly DMAs, as well as the state of Texas. So that's kind of our short-term development plan. And this morning, I'm talking to you from our regional office here in Detroit, but world headquarters. Well, sorry, not world head. The brand is based out of Tampa, Florida. So I kind of fly back and forth a lot between Tampa and Detroit.
Yes, I love it. It's wow, I don't know if I fully realized or remembered the goldfish piece of that, Billy. So it's always learning something new every day. And it really has been fun watching over the years. I mean, you really pour into your people. And the reason, you know, that we kind of are sitting here having this conversation today because there's so many takeaways from some of the things that you've developed, Billy, that you've shared with us. And it really just, you know, piqued my interest because the leadership that you possess, whether we're around the dinner table or I've watched you just build your businesses. It's really been fun to see that grow. But before we get started into what you call the hospitality wheel, I want you to tell a little story because you and Greg were talking to each other, my husband Greg, and you were starting to tell him about the hospitality wheel. And it's kind of a funny story because you stopped giving him the details. Do you
Yeah.
remember what happened there? Tell that story.
I certainly do. So maybe I'll take a step back just on the foundation of the wheel. So
Okay.
in our industry, we hospitality is what we do, but I also find that it's hospitality just goes into almost every single industry I can think of. And so the people are a really crucial part of any business, as you know, and with restaurants, it is the people delivering the experience. Even though you may have the best steak in town, you still have to have the people to deliver it at a high level to get people to come back. So we at Ford's Garage over the last, couple of years have been kind of bashing our heads against the wall. Like, how can we improve, our customer feedback scores, which are really, the platforms that are out there, social, that people are using, Yelp or Google or Facebook to rate restaurants on a scale of 1 to 5. And we do a pretty darn good job, but I was looking for a way to be more consistent and kind of just started challenging our team like, hey, what can we do to improve the hospitality around us? When I open restaurants, when I talk to teammates, I do tell them about where I learned hospitality from. And I learned hospitality
And that's another great story.
in a big way from my grandma. And her name is Betty, Grandma Betty. And so I started thinking about this, how was I treated by Grandma Betty when I'd go over there, and came up with 5 bullet points. And so those 5 bullet points became the 5 kind of components to a wheel. And back to your question is when we were hanging out with, talking to you and Greg, he kind of asked me what's going on at work. And I said, well, I'm working on this hospitality wheel. I think it's a nice process. And I said, the first thing you got to do is be ready. And then you got to be welcoming. And I was about ready to put the third bullet point out there. And Greg grabbed his phone and started taking notes. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no, wait. He says, well, I need this for my team. I'm like, what do you mean you need it for your team? Oh, this works in sales, Bill. This is great. What's next? And I called the timeout and said, you know what? I'm not quite ready to go there yet. And we immediately, protected the IP and got a trademark on it. And it became a wheel, and we have rolled it out. And we're having a lot of fun with it. I can talk more about that anytime during this podcast you like.
For sure. I love it. Well, yeah, let's dive in. I mean, that's that when you started talking about the hospitality wheel, and I love the story about Grandma Betty. So let's walk through it. What is it
Yeah.
I mean, it's so important. It's so profound. It's so has such a huge impact that you did, like you were saying, you got it trademarked. And I think you're working on a book because everybody can use this. Everything that is in this hospitality wheel is something has a takeaway for everybody, whether you're running a family or running a business. But I'll let you take it from there, Billy, because this is
Sure.
awesome.
So back to that moment as I'm challenging my team, I just started to say, okay, if I learned hospitality from Grandma Betty, what was it like to go visit Grandma Betty? And the first thing I'm thinking is like, wow, every time I went over there, she was always ready. She was ready for me. Then my vision of going to visit Grandma Betty was getting on my bicycle, riding over to her house back in the 1970s and early 80s. And, back then there was no cell phones, and, Grandma Betty didn't know I was coming, but she was always ready. And outside the house was all, the lawn was groomed and the house inside was cleaned, and it was stocked with food and drinks. And the thing about it is Grandma Betty was older and she wouldn't be able to do this stuff herself too. Someone else was helping her or whatever. And this was just kind of cool. So sometimes hospitality is a team sport. It's not just one person. There's a lot of other things that go on. So, and Grandma Betty was ready for me, her grandson, along with the other 29 grandkids that she had, or our parents. There was 6 of them, and the in-laws or any family and friends. When I say ready, the house was ready, as I mentioned. The kitchen was stocked, and downstairs there was a refrigerator full of cold beverages, and there was your beverage of all those people was always there and always stocked. She was always ready. And for me, that was a Coca-Cola. And so I couldn't get Coke back in 1981 at home. I'd get Tang or some other stuff, but I couldn't get a Coca-Cola. And so I always had the special Coca-Cola at Grandma Betty's. So she was always ready. And then the next thing is she was so welcoming. And the first thing that she would say when I came over was, thank you. Thank you for coming to see me, Billy. Like, wow, that is so cool. How often do we go into a business where the first thing they say is thank you? Businesses will often say thank you when you're leaving, but how about when you just first show up? Like, wow, you could have gone to any other restaurant. You could have gone to any other roofing company. You could, you have choices, hundreds or thousands of choices. And thank you for coming to our business, So Grandma Betty was always thankful. The next thing is she was hospitable. And when I use the word hospitality, and many other people do, really it is about taking care of people. And so that's the core thing. I mean, if the middle of the whole word hospitality is the word hospital. That's what they do. They take care of people. And that's what we try to do. Grandma Betty would take care of you when you visit her, to the point where she would not let you get out of the chair. She was going to wait on you no matter how old she was and how frail she was. She was still going to wait on you and take care of you and get your every single need. So that was the third thing she was in this process. The fourth thing she did was she was really, really great at food service. In fact, my grandparents had a catering company for many, many years. And I think that's where it got ingrained into her. And her attention to detail on just the littlest things was incredible. And so for me, when I went over there, she was insisting, whether I wanted to eat or not, I was going to eat. Or if I wasn't going to eat, she was going to make something for me to take home. And so she'd usually make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for me, but it was perfectly made, Jill. It was amazing. And, it was cut into quarters, just like I like. And then it was served on a doily. And I always, with my team today, I work with a lot of young people. I'm like, if you don't know what a doily is, look it up on Google. So it was served on a doily, and I already mentioned how nice the experience was about getting the beverage. So with the basic things in terms of going over there and providing a service to me, she was great at it. And then the last thing, the fifth part of this wheel, is really how appreciative she was after I visited. And at the end of it, I mean, that thank you that I received when I got there was overwhelming when I left. And it was to the point where she was just so thankful. Thank you for taking the time to come see me. She really, really appreciated it. And she would watch, me leave on my bicycle, and she'd go to the door and had a window in the door at the top half of the door. And she'd sit there like this, like I'm in your frame right now, and watch me all the way down the street until I went all the way around the corner. And it was just the coolest thing. So, we took those 5 bullet points, put it into a process, and then really that process, I do think is the true thing that can go into almost any business. And so, if it's a car dealership, you got to be ready. If it's a roofing company and, how do people, get a hold of you? Do they call your office? Is your office ready? Are your people ready? Are they trained? All these things go into it. Is your website the vehicle? Is that ready for incoming, traffic? And there's so many things that you can use for this process. And then for the wheel part, really became when I came to the realization that the process never stops. When you turn your business on, the wheel starts turning, and you got to be ready for the next person and ready for the next person and ready for the next. You always got to be ready. And so obviously that laid perfectly into Ford's Garage, which is an automobile themed restaurant. And we literally hit for that business. We have created a wheel that is looks like a Model A wheel and actually spins. And we got them on our walls, and we trained all this stuff. And the book will hopefully be out next year. How's that sound?
I love it. That's so cool. So Billy, what was the reception to all the employees at Ford's Garage when you rolled this out?
Well, it's interesting. So I've been teaching in my entire career about learning hospitality from Grandma Betty.
Yeah.
as this wheel developed, became this opportunity to teach it to everybody. And we use a platform called Opus where we can use videos like this, along with, training materials and blah, blah, blah. But this story about Grandma Betty, which was always well received, amazingly well received. But today I present the story and they hear about Grandma Betty taking care of me. There's other things Grandma Betty did. She, when my dad and went away to Vietnam for a time, me and my brother went to live with my grandma, and she took care of us there. Later, my aunt passed away. My grandma moved in with my uncle to take care of my cousin for a couple of years, and it's just the way she took care of people. And so, as I get into the story about Grandma Betty, almost every time someone gets teared up or emotional, and I remember just doing it in about 2023. We'd opened a new restaurant in Novi, and I had multiple people in the room, young people in tears, and I'm like, what's going on? And the thing is that many of today's generation have experienced like I did for a portion of their life, or maybe all their life, have been raised by the grandma. And it is the coolest thing to connect with young people that have such a special relationship with their grandparents. And so that story really does resonate. And I even had it happen with my business partners. We had our annual meeting up here in Detroit just a week ago. I told the story about Betty, and one of the guys was in tears. And it's just amazing because grandparents are special. And I'm just blessed to have an amazing grandma who taught me hospitality.
I love it. Well, we know when we were little, we always went to my grandma Horn's house every Sunday. That's kind of what we did. I think everybody probably, if they had their grandparents in their life, there's some sort of great connection there that kind of just gives everybody some warm and fuzzy, good memories of when you were younger,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's
which is
awesome. I've heard
fun.
a lot about your grandma. That's for sure.
I know Grandma Horn was awesome. So what's next, Billy? You're writing a book on this, which is amazing. It's going to be fun for everybody to be able to have all the details to implement in their own businesses. But what's next?
Well, I mean, I'm really focused on Ford's Garage growth for the next, the foreseeable future, as long as they'll let me do it. We have a great opportunity with this brand. If you haven't been to a Ford's Garage, it is a brand that celebrates the history of Ford Motor Company and a person in Henry Ford who changed the world. And really, it's such a privilege and honor to have a partner in Ford Motor Company. This brand is coming up very shortly on its 125th year anniversary, which is amazing. And just, in America, there aren't a lot of companies been around for 100 plus years, but 125. They're such a resilient brand. They're a hardworking brand. And that's what we kind of celebrate, is the hardworking, people in America that try to, provide for their families. And we've got a great concept that's fun. We focus on prime burgers and craft beers, but we have a wide open menu, and the atmosphere, celebrates kind of the 1920s, 1930s era when garages first came around, where people would bring their cars to get repaired. And it also happened to be prohibition, because we have a little bit of creative license with the prohibition era, having fun with spirits and that kind of stuff. But it's a great fun atmosphere. Model A usually, or Model T behind the bar, and just great energy. And so as I mentioned, we're at 31 restaurants right now. And this growth opportunity is in many different ways. We are focused on franchising, and that's very strategic. It is to find great people, operators, and businesses within their communities to become partners with us. And we're just starting to tap into the dealership network, which is really kind of fun. So we have a couple of dealers in key areas that have come alongside us as investment partners, or even in one dealership in St. Augustine, Florida, we have put a Ford's Garage in between a Lincoln and a Ford dealer, which is just incredible synergy. So people can come in to buy a car or service a car and come to Ford's Garage, and it's really magic. So we have another one of those coming up in about a year and a half, that we're going to open up a brand new prototype next to a Ford dealer, and partner with them. So lots of opportunities on that front, and I'm just so honored to use my experience to lead this company and see what we can do with it.
I love it. Well, there's so many fun things coming up. I know we're going to be talking a lot about that, but I want to take a minute, Billy. I want to go back to when you were competing in all these Ironmans. I mean, is it 11? Well, how many Ironmans have you competed in?
I've competed
Did you
in
lose count?
I've competed in 14 and finished 13. So
Okay.
the 14th one was I wasn't feeling well. I was leading a team of hundreds of athletes and trying to, you know, provide them with an experience on the weekend that's all encompassing and for their families. And we had banquets and all kinds of stuff. And when I got to race day, I was cooked before the race started. And I
Oh
literally
no.
like almost passed out during the race. And so I crashed, broke my helmet, which automatic disqualification, and probably had a concussion. But the other ones, yeah, I've competed in 13. I was not a world class athlete, but I did get lucky and got a roll down spot to Kona in '08. I was competing in a group within a group, which made it a little bit easier for me, but still a tough challenge. I was in the CEO challenge of the Ironman, and yes, went to Kona in '08 and finished. The triathlon has been an amazing platform for me. It's a great release from the day to day work stuff, and I love getting up early in the morning and hitting it. Usually doing a workout 5:45 in the morning. Most fun workouts were swimming in a local lake here a couple times a week with my buddies, and watching the sun come up as you're swimming is just incredible. I love biking. Running was never my sweet spot, but if the temperature was under 70, I had a chance, and if it was over 70, Billy was going to melt down. So I qualified on a really cold day, which was a blast. And then unfortunately, it's hot in Kona. I did finish, but didn't win my division, but it was a blast. So, but the platform through the athletic fundraising has just been so much fun too. I've met so many amazing people. We would, with World Vision, bring people to triathlons across America, usually either a half Ironman or full Ironman, which is a huge accomplishment for anybody just to finish one and to take, what I would call just a knock around athlete and help coach them to finish this race was life changing. At the same time, they were raising money for clean water projects. And I'm talking, we were able to raise millions and millions of dollars. So much fun.
Well, there's no doubt that that's a whole nother story, which I'd love to talk about. But one of the things I do want to ask you though, Billy, because I mean, it's an incredible feat to even just run a marathon, not to mention an Ironman. And I think most people listening probably know what that is. It's what is it, a 2 mile swim and then
2.4 mile swim. It is a 112-mile bike ride followed by a marathon.
a
Yeah.
full marathon.
Yeah.
So when you look back at all of that, Billy, what do you think what was your biggest takeaway? How did that help you today? What was the biggest takeaway that helped you in business to running your marathons, or was there maybe it was how what was it in business that helped you run your marathons?
Yeah. Well, I think the marathons for me were like, I would say painful. They were. I'm not a runner, and so there's a physical pain and a mental pain, but to do a average, 12, 13-hour race, an Ironman triathlon, it takes a lot of training, a lot of discipline, and a lot of mental toughness. And in life, you're going to go through ups and downs. On the journey of an Ironman, from the training, you're going to go through ups and downs. And it's about a 6-month training program to get ready for an Ironman. And so I enjoyed that challenge. And, as we go through life, we're going to have good days, bad days. And you just got to, if you want to compete at a decent level, you got to stay consistent and you need to do the training. And there are days you just don't want to get out there, and you gotta. And there are times in the race when you want to quit and you just can't if you want to finish that race. And it is just a mental toughness that I really embraced that helped me in business. I would go to work sometimes and, there'd be tough days that, I was dealing with tough stuff. But I just felt like, if I got through Ironman, I got through training, I can do this. It's complemented everything. And it made me feel physically better, even though you get beat up on some days and exhausted from a big, long training ride. Training rides on hot days, 100-mile rides, and try and get up the next morning and feel normal is tough, but you can. And so I just think it was a incredible discipline that I can bring back into my professional life. And when I've interviewed someone who's done Ironman, I'm like, okay, game on. how was that experience and what did you enjoy out of it? Blah, blah, blah. But, Ironman people, they tend to be type A, very disciplined. And I've enjoyed that part to help build discipline in my own business life, and focus, to be honest with you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate your time. I think there's going to be some great takeaways from everybody, whether it's on roofing contractor or walls and ceilings. We'll be posting these in both places, but really grateful for your time. But if anybody has any questions about Ford's Garage, where do they go? How do they find out more? What's the website?
FordsGarageUSA.com.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the stuff behind you, by the way. I feel like
thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I want to reach for the ceiling, and if I hit a wall, I got to get through it. There we go.
Yes, all the logos of all the fun stuff that we've been able to create here on my team. So it's been great. Thank you so much for your time. And if anybody has any questions for us, it's roofingcontractor.com or wconline.com. And make sure you sign up for all our free content, especially follow us on all our social media channels so you can stay up to date in all the great interviews we are doing, especially with really cool people like Billy Downs. But stay safe and healthy, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Billy.